If you can't read people, you can't lead business. Every sale starts in the human mind, not the marketplace. Business isn't about numbers, it's about the heartbeat behind them. When we talk about business, people often think in terms of strategies, profit margins, marketing campaigns, sales targets, or innovative products. But strip away the financial statements, the branding, and the corporate language, and you're left with something much more fundamental: people. Every business, no matter the industry, size, or model, exists because of people, serves people, and is shaped by the way people think, feel, and act. Business is not some cold, mechanical machine that operates in isolation. It is a living, breathing ecosystem that reflects human behavior in its purest form. If you study the rise and fall of companies, the expansion of markets, or the trajectory of an entrepreneurial venture, you'll see patterns that have less to do with economic conditions and more to do with how well those in charge understood the psychology of those they were serving. Products don't sell themselves. Services don't magically attract loyalty. Markets don't shift without cause. Everything is a mirror of human desires, fears, habits, and needs. If a business aligns with these, it flourishes. If it ignores or misunderstands them, it struggles or fails. At its core, business is simply an exchange of value, and value is not determined solely by the objective features of a product or service. It is determined by the subjective perception of the people interacting with it. What makes something valuable to someone is rooted in how it fits their identity, solves their problems, elevates their status, or fulfills an emotional or practical need. A coffee shop on one street corner may fail while another thrives just a block away, not because one had better coffee beans, but because one better understood the community it served. It might be the way the barista remembers customers' names, the music that plays in the background, or the subtle sense of belonging the environment creates. These are human factors, not purely operational ones. When leaders forget that their business is a direct reflection of human behavior, they begin making decisions that are disconnected from reality. They may focus solely on efficiency, technology, or scaling without considering whether the experience they're creating resonates with the people they aim to reach. This is why companies with massive budgets sometimes lose market share to smaller, more agile competitors, because those smaller competitors are closer to the people, listening, adapting, and shaping their business in response to real human signals. The science of behavior tells us that people act based on a combination of conscious reasoning and subconscious programming. This means that a business that wants to grow must operate on two levels. It must meet the logical needs of its customers, and it must speak to the deeper, often unspoken emotional patterns that drive decisions. A great brand is not just a collection of marketing materials. It is a living identity that customers feel connected to, one that mirrors their own values, aspirations, and world view. When customers see themselves in a business, when they feel understood, they are far more likely to engage, purchase, and advocate for it. But understanding human behavior is not just about customers. It's about the people within the business too. The culture, the leadership style, the way teams collaborate. These all mirror human patterns. A company that ignores the emotional and psychological needs of its employees will see it reflected in low morale, high turnover, and disengagement. On the other hand, when a business nurtures trust, purpose, and connection within its own walls, that energy flows outward to the marketplace. Customers can sense when an organization operates from alignment and authenticity versus when it is fractured or purely transactional. Consider how trends emerge. They are not random. They are collective expressions of human needs and desires evolving over time. Businesses that survive for decades are those that are able to read these shifts in behavior early and adapt before the market forces them to. The moment a business assumes that what worked yesterday will work tomorrow, without checking in on the evolving needs of the people it serves, it begins the slow process of becoming irrelevant. This is why listening is one of the most valuable skills in business. Listening not just to feedback forms or sales data, but listening in the truest sense, paying attention to conversations, social dynamics, cultural changes, and emotional undercurrents. Understanding human behavior requires observing without judgment, noticing patterns others overlook, and asking deeper questions. What do people really want? What are they trying to avoid? What gives them a sense of identity, safety, or pride? What frustrates them in ways they can't even articulate? The answers to these questions become the foundation upon which successful businesses are built. If you think of business as a mirror, every success and every failure becomes easier to interpret. Sales going up. That means the behavior you're observing and responding to is being accurately reflected in your offerings. Engagement dropping. That's a sign the reflection is out of sync with reality. The mirror analogy works because it removes the illusion of separation. There is no business without people, and there is no people-driven movement without the mechanisms of business to channel it. Even disruption in business is just a sudden, dramatic shift in human behavior. Think about the companies that have transformed industries. They didn't invent human needs. They simply found a more effective way to meet them. They tuned into frustrations, inefficiencies, or desires that had been ignored, and they created an offering that resonated so strongly that behavior changed. This is why understanding people is the foundation of innovation. You cannot change an industry without first understanding the people who live within it. The best entrepreneurs, leaders, and creators understand that their job is not simply to build a product, open a store, or write a marketing plan. Their job is to understand people so deeply that the solutions they offer feel inevitable, natural, and necessary. They study human nature with the same intensity that others study balance sheets, because they know that numbers are just a result, a reflection, of the way people have chosen to act in response to what the business offered. When you look at the world through this lens, every decision you make in business becomes rooted in empathy, psychology, and observation. You stop guessing what the market wants and start seeing it clearly, because you understand the patterns driving behavior. And as those patterns evolve, you evolve with them, ensuring that your business remains not just profitable, but deeply connected to the people it serves. At the heart of every thriving business lies something far deeper than transactions, products, or services. It's the ability to create genuine human connection. This connection is not a vague, feel-good concept. It's a measurable, biologically ingrained part of what makes us human. The way a business interacts with people, its customers, its employees, its community, has a direct impact on how the brain responds. When a business understands this science, it can create bonds so strong that customers return not out of obligation, but out of genuine loyalty and emotional attachment. Human beings are wired for connection. From the moment we're born, our survival depends on forming bonds with others. Neuroscience shows that positive interactions activate the brain's reward circuitry, releasing chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin, neurotransmitters that make us feel pleasure, trust, and safety. In a business context, this means that every positive, authentic interaction can literally change a person's brain chemistry, strengthening their attachment to the brand. On the other hand, negative experiences trigger stress hormones like cortisol, which make people retreat, distrust, and disengage. The most successful businesses understand that connection begins with trust. Trust isn't built through flashy advertising or clever slogans. It's built through consistent, reliable, and emotionally resonant experiences. When customers feel that a business listens to them, values them, and delivers on its promises, the brain's fear response quiets down, allowing the reward systems to activate. This neurological shift transforms a one-time buyer into a loyal customer. It's the difference between someone buying a product because they need it and someone buying it because they feel an emotional bond with the brand behind it. Think about the places you return to again and again. It might be a local cafe, a particular clothing brand, or even a specific online store. Often, the connection you feel goes beyond the tangible product. It's in the way you're greeted, the feeling of familiarity you get when you interact with the staff, or the way the business anticipates your preferences. All of these experiences tap into the brain's need for social belonging and recognition, creating a subtle but powerful pull to come back. The science of connection doesn't only apply to customers. It's equally vital for employees. Inside every organization, the quality of relationships directly influences performance, creativity, and resilience. When employees feel connected to their leaders, their colleagues, and the mission of the company, their brains operate in a more open and innovative state. Oxytocin levels rise, fostering collaboration and trust, while dopamine reinforces motivation. On the flip side, workplaces with poor connections see higher stress levels, burnout, and disengagement, all of which are reflected in the customer experience. What's fascinating is how small gestures can have a disproportionately large effect on connection. A personalized thank you email, remembering a client's preference, or even responding quickly to a concern can trigger a cascade of positive emotional responses. These actions signal to the brain you matter, you're seen, you're valued. In a world where so many interactions feel automated and impersonal, the businesses that master the art of authentic connection stand out. The digital age has complicated this dynamic. Technology allows us to reach people instantly, but it can also create a barrier to genuine connection. Many businesses rely on automated messages, generic responses, and algorithm-driven engagement, forgetting that humans crave authenticity. The irony is that while customers appreciate speed and convenience, they remember the moments when a business takes the time to connect on a human level. Even in a high-tech environment, the most effective connections come from real empathy, listening, responding, and relating in ways that make people feel understood. One of the most powerful aspects of connection is its ability to create a shared identity. When customers feel aligned with a brand's values, mission, or story, they begin to see that brand as part of their own identity. This is why storytelling is such a potent business tool. It taps into the brain's natural way of processing and remembering information. Stories create emotional resonance, which in turn strengthens memory and deepens connection. A business that tells a story people believe in becomes more than a seller of goods. It becomes a symbol of something bigger. There's also a neurological explanation for why connection drives loyalty, the brain's mirror neuron system. These neurons activate when we observe someone else's actions or emotions, essentially allowing us to feel what they're feeling. In business, this means that the energy, passion, and authenticity expressed by leaders, employees, or brand messaging can be mirrored by customers. If a business radiates genuine enthusiasm and care, the people interacting with it will unconsciously mirror that emotional state, reinforcing the connection. Connection also thrives in moments of vulnerability and authenticity. When a business admits to a mistake and takes transparent action to fix it, it activates trust rather than eroding it. This counterintuitive truth works because people don't connect with perfection. They connect with honesty and shared humanity. Neuroscience confirms that transparency lowers psychological defenses, allowing trust to rebuild faster and more deeply. Ultimately, Connection in business is not about manipulating emotions. It's about aligning with the natural way humans are designed to bond and engage. Every interaction either strengthens or weakens this bond. When a business consistently communicates respect, understanding, and authenticity, it reinforces the neural pathways associated with trust and belonging. Over time, this creates a foundation so strong that competitors struggle to pull customers away, even with lower prices or flashier marketing. The science of connection teaches us that business growth is not only about reaching more people, but about deepening the relationship with the ones you already have. It's about creating experiences that the brain and heart want to repeat, about fostering environments, both internally for employees and externally for customers, where trust, safety, and belonging are not just aspirations, but daily realities. One of the greatest illusions in business is the belief that people make decisions based purely on logic. We like to imagine ourselves as rational beings who weigh the pros and cons, analyze the facts, and then choose the most sensible option. But neuroscience paints a very different picture. In reality, our emotions take the lead in decision making, and logic often arrives afterward, not to decide, but to justify the decision we've already made. This understanding changes everything about how a business communicates, markets, and builds relationships. The human brain is structured in a way that places emotion at the center of action. The limbic system, which governs feelings, memories, and motivation, plays a dominant role in guiding our choices. The prefrontal cortex, which handles rational thought, is essential, but it often serves more as the storyteller than the decision maker. When a person feels strongly about something, whether it's excitement, trust, fear, or desire, the emotional brain initiates action, and then the logical brain constructs a narrative to make that action seem sensible. This is why businesses that focus solely on facts and figures often struggle to inspire loyalty or spark movement. A list of features or a chart of specifications may appeal to the intellect, but without emotional resonance, it fails to create urgency. The moment someone feels something: curiosity, connection, pride, relief, their decision-making shifts. The emotional pull becomes the real driver, and the brain begins to look for evidence to support it. Consider a customer buying a luxury watch. The logical justification might be its precision engineering, durable materials, or resale value. But underneath, the emotional reason could be a sense of achievement, a desire to display success, or the joy of owning something beautiful. The logic simply gives permission to indulge the emotion. The same principle applies whether someone is choosing a restaurant, investing in a business, or deciding which consultant to hire. In every case, emotion triggers the decision, and logic seals it. Understanding this dynamic allows businesses to create experiences and messaging that align with human nature rather than working against it. The most effective marketing doesn't simply present information, it evokes feeling. It paints a vision of what life will feel like once the product or service becomes part of someone's world. It speaks to aspirations, alleviates fears, and awakens desires. The logical elements, price points, guarantees, technical details, come afterward to reinforce the emotional decision already made. This doesn't mean facts are irrelevant. In fact, logic plays a crucial role in ensuring that an emotional decision is sustained and defended. Once someone feels a connection to a product or service, they will seek logical evidence to convince themselves and others that they made the right choice. This is why businesses must still deliver quality, reliability, and tangible value, because without them, the logical brain will eventually dismantle the emotional attachment. The emotional spark starts the fire, but logical fuel keeps it burning. In the sales process, you can often observe the exact moment emotion takes over. The customer's posture shifts, their tone changes, their eyes light up or soften. These are physical signals that the limbic system is engaged. At this point, giving them more day isn't as important as deepening the emotional connection, painting the picture more vividly, making them feel the outcome more clearly. Only after the emotional state is fully engaged should the logical points be reintroduced to make the decision feel safe and sensible. Emotions also play a central role in how people perceive value. Two identical products can have wildly different price points and sales results, depending on the emotional context surrounding them. A meal shared in a warmly lit, beautifully decorated restaurant feels worth more than the same meal eaten in a sterile, silent room. The setting, the atmosphere, the story, all of these shape the emotional experience, and that emotional experience shapes the perception of value. The business world often talks about pain points, and for good reason. People are motivated to act when they feel discomfort, frustration, or dissatisfaction. But it's not the logical recognition of a problem that sparks action. It's the emotional weight of living with it. The more vividly a business can help people feel both the cost of the problem and the relief of the solution, the more likely they are to take action. Emotional contrast, the gap between pain and relief, is one of the most powerful motivators in human behavior. Neuroscience also reveals that emotions are contagious. Through mechanisms like mirror neurons, we absorb the feelings of those around us. This means the emotional state of a business's leaders, employees, and even its brand presence directly influences the emotions of customers. A company that radiates confidence, excitement, and genuine care will naturally trigger similar feelings in its audience, making decisions in its favor more likely. Conversely, if the emotional energy is flat, indifferent, or chaotic, customers will feel that too and hesitate. The interplay between emotion and logic is especially clear in moments of buyer's remorse. If someone makes a decision based solely on emotion without enough logical support, they may begin to second, guess themselves once the emotional intensity fades. This is why businesses must not only trigger emotion, but also immediately provide the logical anchors that reinforce the decision, reminding the customer of the tangible benefits, the practical advantages, and the reasons their choice is sound. This emotional first model doesn't just apply to customers. Employees, partners, and investors also make decisions through the same process. A leader who inspires belief in a vision will find people eager to commit, even if the logical path forward is still being built. Once that emotional commitment is made, the logical brain will work hard to find reasons to justify the choice, creating alignment and momentum. When a business embraces the truth that emotions drive decisions and logic justifies them, it changes how it speaks, how it markets, how it sells, and how it leads. It stops trying to win people over with raw data and starts engaging them in a way that honors their humanity, evoking feelings first, then supporting those feelings with facts. By aligning with the way the brain naturally works, businesses can create not just transactions, but lasting, meaningful relationships rooted in both heart and mind. Every business interaction, whether it's a handshake, an email, a sales pitch, or even a product sitting quietly on a shelf, carries energy. This energy is not some abstract, mystical concept. It's the emotional and psychological tone that radiates from every part of an organization and shapes how people respond. Long before people decide whether to buy, invest, or engage, they are influenced by how a business makes them feel. In many cases, that feeling has nothing to do with the technical details of the offering and everything to do with the unspoken energy it transmits. Humans are deeply sensitive to the emotional climate around them. From an evolutionary perspective, this awareness was essential for survival. Being able to sense whether a situation was safe or dangerous, whether a leader was trustworthy or deceptive, could mean the difference between life and death. That same sensitivity operates in the modern business environment, even if it's not consciously acknowledged. Customers, employees, and partners pick up on tone, body language, responsiveness, and authenticity faster than they process facts or figures. The energy of influence begins with leadership. A leader's emotional state sets the tone for the entire organization. If a leader exudes clarity, confidence, and genuine care, that energy filters down through the company culture and into every customer interaction. Conversely, if leadership radiates anxiety, disconnection, or indifference, that too becomes embedded in the business's identity. People can sense when they're dealing with an organization that is aligned and energized versus one that is fragmented and disengaged. Energy is also communicated through presence. The way someone shows up in a meeting, on a sales call, or in a negotiation has a powerful effect on outcomes. Neuroscience research on mirror neurons shows that people unconsciously mimic the emotions and body language of those they interact with. If you project enthusiasm, optimism, and certainty, the people around you begin to feel those emotions too. This is why charismatic leaders often inspire action, not because they have the most logical argument, but because they transmit a contagious emotional state that makes others want to follow. In the context of business, every touchpoint is a transmitter of energy. The design of a website, the tone of a social media post, the lighting in a retail store, the warmth in a customer service representative's voice, all of these elements create an emotional impression. People don't just respond to what they see, they respond to how it feels. A sleek, well-designed brand identity can signal professionalism and trustworthiness. A messy, inconsistent presentation can unconsciously trigger doubt, even if the actual product quality is high. The energy of influence is not only about positivity, it's about alignment and authenticity. People are drawn to businesses that are congruent, that is, where the outward message matches the internal reality. If a company claims to care deeply about its customers but treats its employees poorly, the misalignment will leak through in subtle ways. Customers may not be able to articulate exactly why they feel hesitant, but they will sense the incongruence. Energy has a way of revealing truth, even when words try to hide it. Authenticity is magnetic because it resonates on a human level. When a business is transparent about its mission, values, and even its challenges, it invites trust. This openness communicates a kind of energetic honesty that people instinctively respond to. In contrast, when a business operates with guardedness or pretends to be something it's not, it creates a subtle tension that pushes people away. Trust is not only built through consistent action, but through the emotional frequency a business emits over time. The speed and tone of communication also reflect the energy of a business. Quick, thoughtful responses signal attentiveness and respect. Delays without acknowledgement can convey disorganization or disinterest. The choice of words, the warmth in phrasing, and even the punctuation used can shift how a message is received. In high-stakes interactions, such as negotiations, conflict resolution, or crisis management, the emotional energy conveyed often matters more than the literal content of the conversation. Inside an organization, the energy of influence determines how teams collaborate and how ideas flow. A workplace that radiates encouragement, recognition, and openness fosters creativity and problem solving. Employees feel safe to contribute, take risks, and innovate. On the other hand, an environment charged with fear, criticism, or competition shuts people down, narrowing their thinking and diminishing their willingness to engage fully. Over time, this internal energy becomes visible externally as customers begin to feel the effects of a disengaged workforce. Another dimension of energy in business is the emotional residue of interactions. People rarely remember every detail of what was said or shown to them, but they almost always remember how they felt. This is why the last impression can be as important as the first. If a customer's final interaction with your business leaves them feeling valued, respected, and cared for, that emotional memory will influence how they speak about your brand and whether they return. If the closing moment is cold, rushed, or dismissive, it can overshadow even the best earlier experiences. Energy is amplified in moments of challenge. When things go wrong, when a shipment is delayed, a mistake is made, or a conflict arises, the emotional tone of the response can either repair the relationship or damage it beyond repair. Businesses that maintain composure, empathy, and solution-focused energy in these moments often turn potential losses into deeper loyalty. This works because the emotional brain sees adversity as a test of trust. The way you respond determines whether trust strengthens or collapses. What makes the energy of influence so powerful is that it operates both consciously and subconsciously. People might consciously recognize that a business is professional, kind, or inspiring, but much of the connection happens beneath awareness. The brain is constantly scanning for emotional signals, and it bases decisions on the sum of these impressions over time. This means that every email, every phone call, every advertisement, and every in-person exchange is an opportunity to reinforce the kind of energy you want associated with your business. In the end, the energy of influence is about understanding that business is not just a transfer of goods, services, or information. It's a transfer of emotion and presence. The way you and your organization make people feel determines how deeply they engage, how long they stay, and how passionately they advocate for you. Energy, more than any single strategy or tactic, is what lingers in people's minds long after the transaction is complete. In business, the highest level of service is not simply responding to what people ask for. It's being able to anticipate their needs before they even articulate them. This skill transforms a company from a vendor into a trusted partner, from a choice among many into the only choice that feels right. It's the difference between meeting expectations and exceeding them in a way that feels almost magical, as if the business has an intuitive understanding of the people it serves. Anticipating needs begins with deep observation. People rarely express the full scope of what they want or need, either because they are not fully aware of it themselves or because they assume it's impossible to have. This means a business that truly understands its audience must go beyond listening to spoken requests. It must also notice patterns, study behavior, and interpret subtle signals. The way customers interact with a product, the questions they ask, the frustrations they show in body language or tone, all of these are clues. Businesses that pay attention to these small details are able to uncover opportunities that others miss. Neuroscience plays a role here as well. The brain is wired to seek efficiency and minimize uncertainty. When a business provides something before a person has to ask for it, it triggers a powerful sense of safety and trust. The brain interprets this as a sign that the relationship is secure and that the business understands them on a deeper level. This emotional response strengthens loyalty and makes people far less likely to consider alternatives, because they feel understood in a way that transcends surface-level transactions. Consider the difference between a hotel that simply provides a clean room when requested and one that notices you prefer extra pillows, remembers your name, and offers your favorite drink upon arrival. The first meets expectations, the second anticipates needs, creating a feeling of personal care. This is not just hospitality, it's psychology. People are drawn to environments where they feel seen, remembered, and valued without having to repeatedly state their preferences. Anticipation also applies to the broader market landscape. Great businesses don't wait for customers to demand innovation. They foresee shifts in behavior, culture, and technology, and adapt before the need becomes obvious. This requires both analytical foresight and emotional intelligence. Trends emerge from changes in collective human behavior, and the companies that spot these changes early can create solutions before competitors are even aware of the problem. This proactive approach allows a business to position itself as a leader rather than a follower. However, anticipating needs is not about guessing randomly. It's about developing a deep empathy for the people you serve. Empathy allows you to place yourself inside the customer's experience and imagine what they might want next. It means understanding not only their current challenges, but also the ones they are likely to face in the near future. This is why some of the most successful innovations come from companies that spend time walking in their customers' shoes, observing their routines, hearing their frustrations, and experiencing their environments firsthand. Technology has expanded the possibilities for anticipating needs. Data analytics, artificial intelligence, and customer relationship management systems can reveal patterns that would be impossible to detect otherwise. Purchase history, browsing behavior, and feedback trends can all point toward unspoken desires, yet technology alone is not enough. Data provides the what and when, but it takes human insight to understand the why. Without the human element, a business risks making assumptions that miss the deeper emotional drivers behind behavior. The ability to anticipate needs also applies internally within a business. Leaders who can foresee the needs of their teams create environments of stability and growth. An employee may not directly request training, better tools, or emotional support, but a perceptive leader notices signs of strain, inefficiency, or disengagement and addresses them before they escalate. This proactive care not only improves performance but also deepens loyalty, just as it does with customers. One of the reasons anticipating needs is so powerful is because it reduces friction. When people don't have to explain themselves repeatedly, they experience less cognitive load. The mental effort required to process and communicate information. This creates a sense of ease, which in turn strengthens their positive emotional association with the business. They feel as though the relationship is effortless, and this effortless quality is what keeps them coming back. It's also worth noting that anticipating needs can create moments of delight that stick in people's memories. When something unexpected happens in a positive way, it stands out because the brain pays special attention to novelty. A small gesture, such as adding a thoughtful extra feature to a product or offering a surprise upgrade, can generate disproportionate goodwill. These moments become stories that customers share, amplifying word-of-mouth marketing without the business having to ask for it. The businesses that master this approach often operate with a mindset of service rather than transaction. Instead of asking, "What do we need to do to close this sale?" they ask, "What could we do that would make this person's experience better, even if they didn't think to request it?" This shift in perspective moves the relationship from one of mere exchange to one of ongoing partnership, where the business is constantly adding value in ways the customer didn't expect. Anticipating needs also requires adaptability. People's preferences and circumstances change, sometimes rapidly. What delighted someone last year may not matter to them today, and what they care about now may not be relevant tomorrow. This means businesses must continually monitor, learn, and adjust, not clinging to old assumptions, but staying curious and open to new insights. The ability to pivot quickly while maintaining a deep understanding of the audience is what keeps the anticipation relevant and effective. In its highest form, anticipating needs before they are spoken becomes an art. It's a blend of observation, empathy, foresight, and action. It's about reading between the lines, sensing the undercurrents of human behavior, and responding in a way that feels both natural and extraordinary. When a business can consistently do this, it doesn't just meet expectations, it shapes them, guiding people toward experiences they didn't even know they wanted until they had them. When you strip away the strategies, the numbers, and the technology, business always comes back to one unshakable truth: it is, and always will be, about people. Understanding people means understanding the invisible forces that shape every choice they make, the patterns of human behavior that dictate what they value, the biological wiring that craves trust and connection, the emotions that silently steer their decisions, the unspoken energy that draws them toward or away from you, and the needs they haven't yet found the words to express. When a business learns to see through this lens, it stops operating as a mechanical process and begins functioning as a living relationship. It listens more deeply, responds more intuitively, and creates experiences that resonate on both emotional and logical levels. This is where lasting loyalty is born, not through pressure or persuasion, but through alignment with the very essence of what it means to be human. In this space, business becomes more than an exchange of goods or services. It becomes a reflection of empathy, understanding, and shared growth, where success is measured not only in profit, but in the depth of the relationships built along the way.